Right now, there are roughly 30 million men in China facing a statistical impossibility. They are known colloquially as guanggun, or bear branches, because they will never marry, have children, or add a branch to their family tree. With a massive shortage of women, the math of the Chinese marriage market has inverted. The intense scarcity has driven hyperinflation for caili, or bride prices. In rural areas, a standard marital agreement now requires the groom's family to provide hundreds of thousands of yuan in cash, a house, and a car, forcing farming families into crippling debt just to make their sons marriageable. Men completely priced out of this domestic market are looking across borders, fueling a transnational criminal economy. Over 80% of female trafficking victims identified within China are brought in from neighboring countries like Myanmar and Vietnam, specifically for forced marriage. How does a country with over 1 billion people literally run out of women? Where did 30 million people go? A population deficit of that scale does not happen by accident. It is the mathematical conclusion of a 5,000-year system designed to control, optimize, and instrumentalize the female body. If we rewind to a Neolithic village in 2750 BC, grave sites in Shandong province show people were buried according to their mother's lineage. Early Chinese societies were largely egalitarian, with women working agriculture and holding religious authority. As agriculture formalized and private property emerged, control over land required a clear line of inheritance. The solution was the Zongfa, or patriarchal clan system. By strictly tracing descent through the firstborn male, families locked down wealth and political power. State philosophers coded this new hierarchy into law and morality. Under Confucianism, a stable state required strict chains of obedience. The cosmological concept of yin and yang was applied to gender. Men were the active yang, women the passive yin. This justified strict domestic confinement, legally forbidding women from public life. Ideological rules on paper require compliance. To turn human beings into obedient property, the state eventually turned to physical force. By the Song Dynasty, control became anatomical. For nearly 1,000 years, young girls had the bones in their feet systematically broken and tightly bound. It permanently altered their skeletal structure, enforcing a fragile gait and severely limiting how far they could walk. It was brutally practical economics. A family presenting a daughter with bound feet was visually broadcasting their wealth. They were proving they were rich enough to survive without her manual labor in the fields. For rural, impoverished families, it became a grim necessity. Enduring the mutilation was sold to young girls as the only viable path to a wealthier household. A woman with natural, large feet was considered completely unmarriageable. For a millennium, a woman's anatomy was intentionally destroyed to increase her market value as a domestic commodity. In 1949, the newly established People's Republic of China outlawed arranged marriages and concubines. Mao Zedong declared, "Women hold up half the sky," and millions of women were absorbed into the workforce. Sociologists refer to this era as patriarchal socialism. The old family structure was dismantled, but the state simply took its place, demanding women perform equal heavy labor in the factories while still carrying the exact same uncompensated domestic workload at home. This chart tracks China's birth rates against economic growth targets. By the late 1970s, rapid population growth was viewed as a threat to economic modernization. Reproduction was nationalized. The female body became a macroeconomic dial, leading directly to the strict quotas of the one-child policy. Now look at the sex ratio at birth. The natural baseline is about 105 boys for every 100 girls. When state-enforced birth limits collided with ancient rural traditions requiring a male heir, that ratio violently spiked, hitting 140 in some regions. Having a daughter became an economic liability millions of families couldn't afford. This strict math led to widespread female infanticide, the selective abortion of female fetuses once ultrasound technology arrived, and the mass abandonment of infant girls to state orphanages. Millions of other girls simply disappeared from the ledger. To avoid severe financial penalties, families hid their daughters from the government, creating a population of Heihaizi, or black children. They survived, but were structurally erased, deprived of state health care, legal protection, and public education. By optimizing the population strictly for economic output and ignoring the entrenched demand for sons, the state engineered the erasure of millions of women, locking in a demographic collapse decades before it would detonate. In urban single-child households today, an ironic side effect of the one-child policy has fully matured. Parents poured all their financial and socioeconomic capital into their only daughters. As a result, educational attainment for young Chinese women skyrocketed. Forced to occupy the high-pressure spaces traditionally reserved for sons, this highly educated generation is experiencing a profound gender awakening. Faced with lingering workplace discrimination and immense economic pressure, millions are actively opting out of patrilocal marriage and childbearing entirely. Facing a rapidly shrinking labor force and an aging population, the state has panicked. The one-child limit is gone, replaced by aggressive pro-natalist propaganda urging women to embrace domesticity, marry, and have 3 children for the good of the nation. Simply removing a punitive restriction doesn't erase the math. The astronomical costs of raising a child in modern China remain, and professional women know that stepping back to have 3 children often means severe career penalization. A government desperate to increase its population is now hitting a brick wall of empowered women who refuse to be treated as state resources. For 5,000 years, the female body was strictly managed to ensure social and economic stability. Yet by suppressing, mutilating, and mathematically erasing women, the system engineered the exact catastrophic social instability it was trying to prevent. You cannot fix a deficit of 30 million missing women by adjusting a quota. Achieving demographic equilibrium will require dismantling the ancient patriarchal structures that made daughters expendable in the first place. Demography is destiny. If you want to understand the hidden historical forces actively shaping our modern world, hit subscribe and we'll see you in the next one.